Hey, welcome to another edition of It Is What It Is. I'm your host, Derek Limas, and sitting in here today with me is none other than my man, Jim Faris, also known as Kentucky Jim, who basically is an upright bass player, and most importantly, is a creative director at Accelerant Studios. Am I correct? Yeah, Jim, look, a lot of times it's hard to get guests to agree, you know, to come in, but I'm so happy. I mean, it's like 99 degrees out there, you know, or like my man would say, 96 degrees in the shade. Little reggae for you. I know you're in the rockabilly, but of course you see the two upright bass sitting behind us. And Jim, you know, first and foremost, you know, tell us a little bit about you. We know you're the creative director. We know you're the upright bass player. You know, tell us a little bit about you.
Wow, where do I start with that one?
Well, you can start. Well, I was born. No.
I was born in a small town in northern Kentucky that we're on cable. I could probably say the name of it. It's got a very odd name. Anyway, started. You know, I got a chance to play with some really interesting people when I was a kid that I had no idea how interesting they were. A lot of family played music and stuff. And I got into a band in high school called the Cubes. We're doing our reunion gig in Kentucky.
Right, you told me about, you said a whole bunch of people coming from different parts of the world.
They're coming from London,
right?
and Madison and Cincinnati and everywhere. And we're getting back together and doing, we're doing all the songs that we did in like 1984 at the Row House in Cincinnati. So if you happen to be at the Row House in Cincinnati, there we are, around Thanksgiving time.
So you know, as a young Jim, little Jim, what got you into music? What actually, you know, got you on the path to being or wanting to be a musician?
You know, there were a ton of things. My dad was a trumpet player, and I hardly ever heard him play trumpet, but we had one around the house. And my sister became a great pianist who played completely by sight. She was able to sight read, just amazing. It used to frustrate her to death because I'd walk over to the piano and sit down and figure out how to play songs. She had to go out and buy the sheet music. So I got sucked into it. And then, you know, I think I was 5th or 6th grade, elementary school, big gymnasium. The junior high school band came to do a concert for us. And while they were setting up, Jim Gilliam, oh my God, I just remembered his name. Jim Gilliam, tall redheaded guy, pulled out this electric bass, plugged into a crappy little amp, and played Smoke on the Water so loud, it rumbled through the whole gym, and it was just those 3 notes, that dom, dom, dom. I was like, oh man, I want to be a rock star. So, you know, I started playing guitar, and everybody else in town played guitar, so everybody I knew was a guitar player. So I thought, my mom said, you know, buy a bass. Get a bass. You'll have a gig for the rest of your life. That's my biggest piece of advice to every musician out there. Buy a bass. You'll have a gig for the rest of your life. And sure enough, I bought a bass, and I've had a gig for the rest of my life.
So what type of bass was it that you actually bought?
It was a K electric, I think.
So it was the electric
bass, yeah.
over-the-shoulder type bass.
Yeah, single pickup SG, Angus Young style. I was always interested in the upright bass, but you know, it wasn't rock and roll to me. I remember going over to my friend's house, and he had an older brother, had an upright bass. I would just be fascinated by it. I'd walk up and I'd hit the strings a couple times. So in high school, I kind of played around with my friends' upright bassists and stuff, and got in a blues band. But even then, you know, not knowing what to do, I ended up grabbing my electric bass and playing electric bass for quite a few years. Got into a really good band called Bachelors of Art back in Cincinnati, and we toured around for a bit and, you know, tried to get a record contract like everybody else, and lived in a van down by the river in New Hampshire. And we fell apart up in Boston, and I ended up stuck in Boston for 20 years. Got married, had a kid, got a great kid. Hi, Declan. Hi. He's
got to give a shout out, right?
He's my boy. He's a rocker.
Let me ask you this. You said that you played, then you got with a band, and you all tried to get a record deal and toiled a little bit. I mean, did you make any songs? I mean, did you make any albums? Back then it was albums, right?
We were the beginning of the CD wave.
Mm-hmm.
We had a couple tapes out. We got on some local radio. We got into some compilation discs that got circulated around through some different magazines. They really didn't do. It was one of those things. We were a real pop band, real radio friendly, and Nirvana came out with Nevermind, and all the record companies lost interest in pretty sounding music and wanted something heavy. I went on. I joined the band of my dreams, Charlie Chesterman, the legendary Motorbikes. Charlie was the front man for Scruffy the Cat back through the 80s. I played with Charlie for probably 12 years while I was up in Boston. One of the best bands ever. It was the best give and take kind of thing that would happen on stage. And I always knew what direction everybody else was going in, and they always knew. And as soon as we didn't know, we fell off a cliff together as a unit and sounded horrible all at once.
So was it enjoyable though?
It was a blast. It was a blast. And Charlie was signed with Rykodisc for a while, and we did some pretty decent gigs and opened up for some cool folks, and it was a good time. Everybody got a little older, and we started having kids, and realized that we enjoyed playing with each other more than we liked being rock stars. So I think they're still up in Boston playing.
So you went from Smoke on the Water, like, wow, I want to play the bass, to going from place to place playing.
Oh yeah.
As a musician, and then getting to the point where you had to do something else in life, and now you're playing the upright bass.
Yeah.
For pleasure.
For pleasure. If somebody wants to pay me, go to KentuckyGym.com, send me an email, because I could use a paying gig right now.
Whatever. Please, hold up. You're an accomplished, creative director.
Well, yes.
Cleo. All right. Since he wants to, talk about I need a paying gig. Okay, we understand all that as a musician. But you're an award-winning designer. Am I correct?
Yes. In fact,
Cleo Award.
Yeah. This is all thanks to my dad and my mom, both saying, you know what, you may not make it as a rock star, get a degree. So I got a degree in design. My sister was a great artist. She's a teacher down in Tennessee right now. She was always a teacher. And so I got my degree in design. The day that I graduated, the day I got my paper, and I hopped in my car that was filled with all my equipment and my suitcases, and I drove to Buffalo to meet up with the band. I was on the road from the second that I got my degree. Got that ticket punched and went out to be a rock star. When rock star didn't happen, I thought, maybe I should use this degree. Mm-hmm. So I went to work in educational publishing, doing